It was the longest day, mindlessly hot, unspeakably hot, too hot to move or even think. The countryside, the village of Tree Gap, the wood, all lay defeated. Now, can a wood actually lay defeated or a village? No. So, what figurative language is this an example of? What is given human characteristics? Nothing stirred. The sound was a ponderous circle without edges, a roar without a sound, a blazing glare so thorough and remorseless that even in the Fosters' parlor with curtains drawn, it seemed an actual presence. You could not shut it out. So now we've seen personification, and now we've also seen metaphors. Winnie's mother and grandmother sat plaintive all afternoon in the parlor, fanning themselves and sipping lemonade, their hat unsettled and their knees loose. Plaintive is a vocabulary word, and it means being sorrowful or melancholy, right? And melancholy is another vocab word. I am on a roll with these vocab words right now. It was totally unlike them, this lapse from gentility, and it made them much more interesting. But Winnie didn't stay with them. Instead, she took her own brimming glass to her room and sat in her little rocker by the window. Once she had hidden Jessie's bottle in a bureau drawer, there was nothing to do but wait. In the hall outside her room, the grandfather's clock ticked deliberately, unimpressed with anyone's impatience, and Winnie found herself rocking to its rhythm, forward, back, tick, tock, tick, tock. She tried to read, but it was so quiet that she could not concentrate, and so she was glad when at last it was time for supper. It was something to do, though none of them could manage more than a nibble. But later, when Winnie went out again to the fence, she saw that the sky was changing. It was not so much clouding up as thickening, somehow from every direction at once, the blank blue gone to haze. And then, as the sun sank reluctantly behind the treetops, the haze hardened to a brilliant brownish yellow. In the wood, the leaves turned underside up, giving the trees a silvery cast. The air was noticeably heavier. It pressed on Winnie's chest and made her breathing difficult. She turned and went back into the cottage. "It's going to rain, I think," she told the prostrate group in the parlor, and the news was received with little moans of gratitude. Prostrate also means like stricken with emotion such as grief or sorrow. So they're all having kind of a hard time with Winnie being back and knowing that she chose to run away and she was actually well, that she was happy that she was kidnapped. She didn't run away. Where are we at? Everyone went to bed early, closing windows firmly on their way. For outside, though it was almost dark, shreds of the hard brown yellow light lingered on the rim of things, and there was a wind. We're now at the top of page 67. There was a wind beginning, small gusts that rattled the fence gate and set the trees to rustling. The smell of rain hung sweet in the air. "What a week this has been," said Winnie's grandmother. "Well, thank the Lord it's almost over." And Winnie thought to herself, yes, it's almost over. There were 3 hours to wait before midnight and nothing whatever to do. Winnie wandered restlessly about her room, sat in her rocker, lay on her bed, counted the ticks of the hall clock. Beneath her excitement, she was thick with guilt. For the second time in 3 short days, though they seemed many more than that, she was about to do something which she knew would be forbidden. She didn't have to ask. Winnie had her own strong sense of rightness. She knew what she could always say afterward. "Well, you never told me not to." But how silly that would be. Of course it would never occur to them to include such a thing on their list of don'ts. She could hear them saying it and almost smiled. "Now remember, Winifred, don't bite your fingernails, don't interrupt when someone else is talking, and don't go down to the jailhouse at midnight to change places with prisoners." So she knows that they're going to say no, and so she's not going to ask. There's actually a saying that says it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. So that's kind of the motto she's going by right now. Where was I? Sorry, guys, I just lost my place. It's actually like I'm there with you because I have lost my place. Still, it wasn't really funny. What would happen in the morning when the constable found her in the cell and had to bring her home for the second time? What would they say? Would they ever trust her again? Winnie squirmed, sitting in the rocker, and swallowed uncomfortably. Well, she'd have to make them understand somehow without explaining. The hall clock chimed 11. Outside, the wind had stopped. Everything, it seemed, was waiting. Winnie lay down and closed her eyes, thinking of Tuck and May, of Miles and Jessie. Her heart softened. They needed her, to take care of them. For in the funny sort of way that had struck her at the first time, they were helpless. Or too trusting. Well, something like that. Anyway, they needed her. She would not disappoint them. May would go free. No one would have to find out. Winnie would not have to find out, and May could not. But Winnie blocked the picture from her mind, the horror that would prove the secret. Instead, she turned her thoughts to Jessie. When she was 17, would she? If it was true, would she? And if she did, would she be sorry afterwards? Tuck had said, it's something you don't find out how you feel until afterwards. So she's saying, there's a lot of things that are happening right now. First of all, I kind of wonder how May's feeling because she murdered somebody. And it's not like that was her intention. She was defending Winnie, but I kind of wonder how, that feels because May's a really nice lady. And so I'm wondering what she's feeling right now, knowing that she's kind of got everyone in this situation. And now May is seriously considering, she still doesn't fully believe that the spring makes you live forever. And now she's wondering, would I actually in 6 years? Do I really want to do this? She's not sure if she's going to take Jessie's offer. But no, it wasn't true. She knew that now, here in her own bedroom. They were probably crazy after all, but she loved them anyway. They needed her, and thinking this when he fell asleep. So she does not believe in the spring. She woke with a jerk sometime later and sat up alarmed. The clock was ticking steadily. The darkness was complete. Outside, the night seemed poised on tiptoe, waiting, holding its breath for the storm. Winnie stole out to the hall and frowned at the clock face in the shadows, and at last she could make it out, for the black Roman numerals were just barely visible against their white ground, the brass hands glowing faintly. And as she peered at them, the loud hand snapped forward one more notch with a loud click. She had not missed her moment. It was 5 minutes to midnight. All right, guys, so what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that she's going to be successful going and helping her? I mean, some of you actually predicted about them breaking them out of jail. I don't know if it was this class or a different one, but someone did predict that they would try and bust her out. But I do think that she's having some kind of... She's trying to figure out how she's going to live with her parents. She doesn't want to lose their trust. She wants them to still believe in her. So these 2 chapters kind of showed how boring her life was at home because she had all this fun activity at the Tux and now she's back home and it's just kind of blah. All right, so now you're going to go and you're going to do your assignment with plot. Take your time, remember everything we talked about yesterday, and you're going to identify the areas of plot on a plot line, and you're also going to identify the elements of the story. All right, guys, I will read to you tomorrow.